So welcome everyone. I'm going to do my regular kind of Bray School Stories welcome. For those of you who are new to Bray School Stories, welcome. We are so excited to have you here this evening. My name is Elizabeth Drembus, and I'm the genealogist for the William and Mary Bray School Lab. So in service to the Bray School Lab's mission of uncovering and documenting, preserving, and disseminating the history and the legacies of the Williamsburg Bray School, we host a monthly series on Zoom in order to share out recent genealogical findings, engage the descendant community in this work in order to broaden our understanding about those legacies, and enlist the help of historians and genealogists, as well as the general public in furthering the conversations and the research surrounding the Williamsburg Bray School. The title of the monthly series is Bray School Stories. This evening's focus is a little different than just our regular Williamsburg Bray School. The focus this evening is the new Negro at 100. Are we having a historical and cultural renaissance now? So first, some housekeeping items for those of you who just joined us. Once again, we are recording this session. It'll be available on our YouTube channel probably in the next week or so. And to find it, simply Google Bray School Lab YouTube. And if you have any questions or concerns about being recorded, please feel free to go ahead and keep your cameras off if that is more comfortable for you. So I'm joined this evening by three special guests, Maureen Elgersman Lee, who is the director of the William and Mary Bray School Lab, Mr. Lacroy Atlas Nixon, the Inaugural Poet Laureate for the city of Williamsburg, and Reverend Juanita Graham, a poet and associate minister at Historic First Baptist Church of Williamsburg. And I'm going to go ahead and read their bios a little bit more fully. And then when I'm done, I'm actually going to turn the session over to Maureen to kind of lead the conversation this evening. And I will invite you to share your questions, your comments in the chat as we go along. And I also wanted to just mention that these three folks, along with Jacqueline Bridgeforth Williams, were part of a panel addressing this very question in October at the Slate seminar. And the conversation was pretty amazing and pretty powerful. And I felt it was so important and timely that I really wanted to bring it to Bray School Stories. So I'm so grateful that Maureen and Lacroy and Juanita are able to join us this evening. Unfortunately, Jackie Bridgeforth Williams was not able to join us. So the date didn't work out with her travel schedule. So thank you all for being here. And thank you to everyone who is joining us this evening. So let me go ahead and introduce our speakers today. So first up is Maureen Elgersman Lee. As the director of the Bray School Lab, Maureen Elgersman Lee guides research and collaboration with university faculty, external scholars and graduate students and undergraduates and Bray School descendants. She is a native of Ontario, Canada. Dr. Elgersman Lee holds a bachelor's degree in French from Redeemer University, as well as a master's degree in African American Studies and a doctoral degree in humanities with an emphasis on African American studies, both from Clark Atlanta University. Maureen has spent more than 2 decades teaching the history of African-descended people at universities in Georgia and Maine and Virginia, and she also served as the executive director of Richmond's Black History Museum for 5 years. Maureen is the author of multiple books, and most recently she co-edited The Williamsburg Bray School, A History Through Records, Reflection, and Rediscovery. And she has served as a Fort Monroe Authority trustee and has received various grants to further African American community history. So welcome, Maureen. Next, I'd like to introduce Lacroy Atlas Nixon. He's a 2-time back-to-back 2023 and 2024 Verb Benders Grand Slam champion and 2025 King of the South champion and the 3-time national team ranking 3rd, 10th, and 6th. Is a national finalist for the 2024 Poetry Me Please People's Choice Competition, where winners got the chance to perform at the Apollo Theater in New York City in 2025. He was one of 10 poets selected from across the nation as a competitor in the Poetry Me Please annual Bet on Yourself Slam competition. He's been featured in magazines such as Bully Magazine, Next Door Neighbors, Canvas Rebel, Bold Journey, as well as the Virginia Gazette, WHRO 93.5 The Berg Radio, and VPM's In the Pen with Roscoe Burnhams. And he's the creator of the Artist Garden and is the lead curator for the Williamsburg Tiny Desk. He's the founder and executive director of Slam Connection, a nonprofit organization in Williamsburg created to use slam and spoken word poetry as a means for community action. And he made history by becoming the first ever Poet Laureate of Williamsburg, Virginia, marking the beginning of a new era for art and creativity in the city. Welcome, Lacroy. Thank you so much for being here. And lastly, but certainly not least, Reverend Juanita Graham. Juanita Graham is originally from Martinsville, Virginia. She moved to the Williamsburg area when she attended the College of William and Mary, where she received a BA in psychology and her master's in education and agency counseling. She was ordained in the ministry on October 23rd, 2005 at the historic First Baptist Church in Williamsburg, Virginia, and there she serves an associate minister. She is the author of the book, Find Your Voice, Find Your Healing. It is a book of poetry and photos that is designed to draw the reader in and participate in the experience of reading the book. She is an advisory board member for the Let Freedom Ring Foundation, and she is also a new board member of the Williamsburg Book Festival. Occupationally, she serves as the director of outreach services for Avalon Center. Juanita embraces the process of creating and crafting. She is a genealogical enthusiast and has traced her family history back to the 1840s. And she also enjoys reading and listening to music. Welcome, Juanita. Thank you so much for being here. And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Maureen to kind of take it from here.
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth. And good evening, everyone. I hope that everyone's had a safe afternoon and going into the evening. And I want to thank Elizabeth for really coming up with this idea of extending the conversation from October 2025 Slate Seminar and bringing it to a broader audience. For those who were in that session, you know that it was a rich conversation. We know many could not be there because of geography and schedules, and it really deserved another round, if you would, of conversation, perhaps going in some different directions than we did in October, but certainly also really making sure that we are letting people know about what other members of the community are doing. So much happens, I don't want to say in the shadows, but so much happens that is often unrecognized, but is incredibly important and powerful. So this session is a special session. We also discussed, Elizabeth and I, the fact that we are really at the same time by this also marking the 1 year anniversary since we were on Bray School Stories as a broad collective. Many of you were on that session on the first Monday in December of last year, when we as a collective were celebrating online, virtually, the publication of what we generally call the Williamsburg Bray School book, but the incredible collaborative effort that culminated in the publication of that book. Again, Colonial Williamsburg, our partner and publisher in that project. So it's been a year since we all, well, several of us held up our books on the screen, and we captured that moment and still cherish everything that led us to that moment and what has happened since. It bears mentioning that as we come to the end of 2025, it bears mentioning that the book was recognized in the special projects category from the American Association for State and Local History. And special projects are long-term projects that don't fit into a single category. And it really was about the convening and the how of making that book come to fruition, and the different ways, kind of traditional and non-traditional, that we convened individuals and make sure that those who were interested in being part of the project would be able to continue with the support that they needed in their respective ways, but also partnering with, in addition to Colonial Williamsburg as publisher, have to represent and recognize University Libraries at Will and Mary for being an incredible host, hosting a write-a-thon, inviting contributors to be part of the faculty writing retreat, and helping us ideate as well. But as we were moving through 2025, I came to the thought that we are in the 100th anniversary of the publication of an incredible book called The New Negro, and no one was talking about it. So I've got a very humble slide um, that just recognizes the the New Negro from very, very early version. So the New Negro was published in 1925. It's an edited collection, as you can see, edited by Alain Locke. And on the right of your screen is a much more recent version, still keeping that aesthetic, right? Kind of the Art Deco 1920s aesthetic, if you would. And so I was asking myself, why am I not hearing it? It may be that I'm in this tunnel where conversations are happening around me that I'm just not plugged into. But it to me seemed an opportunity to talk about a really, really important publication. So I want to talk a bit about the New Negro and how this conversation helps set the stage for me to step back and really foreground our other two guests this evening. So the New Negro was published in 1925. It is the what some people consider the beginning of the Harlem Renaissance. For others, it's the recognition that the Harlem Renaissance was already taking place. It's 1925, so we're after World War I, but we really have to, in many ways, go back to at least 1919 when we talk about the New Negro and the concept. We're talking post-World War I. African American service people are returning from Europe. They've had a life-altering experience traveling to Europe, the Great War, which was to be the war to end all wars, just global war, unprecedented. And they're seeing different things. They're learning things about themselves. They're learning things about the world. They're learning that race relations in the United States is not the formula for the rest of the world. They are seeing freedoms and acceptance and recognition in ways and on scales that they had not seen in their own countries. But they also return to a country that was largely unchanged when it came to a racial hierarchy. So we have also factors going on, context. The Great Migration is underway, which is the unprecedented out migration of Southern-born Blacks to the North, Northeast, and increasingly to the Midwest. It's a labor migration that is also spurred on also by the nature of race relations, searching for better economic opportunities, hoping for better social opportunities for individuals and for the next generation, really looking at creating new opportunities for one's children. So very forward looking. So Alain Locke in 1925 is editing the New Negro. He is at Howard University. He is operating in the space of cultural arts, and he's looking at how art and the awareness of African Americans' contributions to art and artistic expression could be a means of improving race relations. Alain Locke, like others, including the luminary W.E.B. Du Bois, believed that the decline of race relations in the United States was very much attributed to the absence of knowledge, what some people would call ignorance, but the absence of knowledge of the contributions of African descended people globally and also in the United States specifically. So Locke has that similar hope, similar confidence in education, and believes that if people just knew of the cultural contributions that African Americans had made and were continuing to make, then they would esteem them more highly. And when you esteem someone more highly than perhaps in the past, or at least esteem them as on par with yourself, that typically translates into better treatment of those individuals. So that was part of the thinking behind the new Negro and the purpose. It was also articulating this, who was this new Negro? And Locke talks in a kind of philosophical, very, very philosophical way that the new Negro is contrasted with the old Negro. And he identifies the old Negro as turning outwards and trying to interpret oneself for a larger audience, almost making oneself more palatable for a broader audience. The new Negro is turning inwards, speaking to Negroes as Negroes. So there's a shift, there's a whole paradigm shift operating in the new Negro. And the new Negroes all
Maureen, I think we're only catching just a little bit of what you're saying. Your connection just went out just a little bit. We'll give her just a moment to get back. So, is everyone able to see the screen and see both the 1925 version of the book and now the new updated cover of the book? Okay, I think okay, good. So we've lost Maureen. And thanks for the thumbs up, everybody. This is great. We'll get Maureen back. So just from what Maureen is already saying, any comments, reflections, any thoughts of, is this new information? Is this resonating? Anybody want to share?
I'll jump in.
Okay.
Um, I do think I think today we are in a renaissance of sort because the new Negro of the 2020s is searching for information, not trying to um, be something other than what we are and celebrating who we are. I would consider myself a part of the new Negro. There's so much information I didn't have prior that I have now, and I'm embracing it and sharing it.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeanette. Maureen, it looks like you're back.
Okay, I'm going to stop talking.
Oh, no.
And I'm going to actually turn my camera off because
Okay.
sometimes that can help. And it may be weather related, I'm not sure. But I'm going to turn my camera off and maybe that will channel more of the energy just into the audio.
Okay. Terrific. Okay.
But all that for saying, just wanted to give context. I believe context is extremely important. But this session was also um, inspired by what has been happening in the community, what we're seeing in the community, even what's been happening this year on the blog, the Bray School Lab's blog, A Reasonable Progress. So all these things have conspired to create the opportunity to talk about what is happening. And I think the question is a bit rhetorical. About, are we in the midst of a renaissance? And I think there's opportunity to talk about how we are and what that looks like. So I am going to pass the baton. I think given the order of introductions, I'm going to pass the baton over to Lacroy Nixon, um, and and I'm going to mute.
All right, here we are. We are live and in Technicolor. How y'all doing this evening? As stated before, my name is Lacroy. On stage, I go by Atlas. I get the privilege of being the first ever poet laureate for the city of Williamsburg, and I got the chance to be at the Slate seminar, and I spoke on the same kind of question. Are we in the midst of a renaissance? At least in this area, my response is not yet. And here's why. When we break down what the original Renaissance was, especially when we're talking not just Harlem Renaissance, but we're going all the way back to like the European Renaissance, and we're talking the Medici family, Da Vinci, all those guys. The Renaissance was a sustained arts movement that was sustained by merchants. It was sustained by a financial base that was commissioning artists to build architecture, to create the statue, to do the painting. It was consistently like held together. Really, the glue that held it together was economic support for the artist. And then what happened was when the artists were supported, they began to expand. They were able to teach people their ways. They were able to like create more things. And that's really the foundation of what was the Renaissance. That at least what it was then. Fast forward to now, the analogy I used at the Slate seminar is that the Renaissance and cultural moves like this, they're like hurricanes, right? Out of nowhere, off the coast of Africa, a gust of wind blows a certain type of way. And next thing you know, you have multiple gusts of wind blowing the certain type of way. The next thing you know, you have a coalescence of clouds and vapor and all these things that seem to come out of nowhere. The funny thing about most cultural movements is that they always seem to start out of nowhere. They always seem to come from nothing, right? But when you trace them back, they have roots. It was always one person or one group or a demographic of people that said, you know what, no, we want to see this happen. And everybody started moving in unison. Funny thing about hurricanes is they are made of cloud, wind, and rain, yet they still have structure. Every storm system, every complex storm system that you've ever seen has structure. I like to compare culture to like a storm or things that are in the sky because so much of culture is made up, right? We made up the English language. It doesn't exist. It's made up. Like even the borders that make up the states of the United States, it's made up. Like what is it, 38th parallel that separates US from Canada? There's no force field stopping us from going across the border, right? It's made up. I say that because when we're talking about a renaissance and cultural movements and really major cultural moments, we're not just talking about like social media posts or like a lot of art happening. What we're seeing is a collective intentional move towards something, right? When I think of a hurricane, hurricanes always follow the same general pathway because the trade winds along the equator and the Coriolis effect and the curvature of the earth cause the hurricane to move a certain type of way along with the rotation. There's a lot of factors that go into making that storm in that region. There's a reason why things have to be in place for that to happen. The same way, when we're looking at the idea of a renaissance, the atmosphere has to be right for it. There has to be the right kind of artist. There has to be the right kind of mindset. There has to be something that is binding the community together. So something holding the community together. And also there has to be a collective vision of what does the future look like. It can't just be like a really dope open mic where we got a bunch of people come up, it's a moment, everybody gets up on stage or the art gallery is filled with all these colorful paintings. That's great. But then what? Right? Because then it's just a storm in the Midwest. Not all storms get names, but they happen all the time. Cultural moments, highs in the cultural landscape happen all the time, but we don't always give them the name of Renaissance or the Great Awakening or the Enlightenment or whatever you call it. They don't all get the privilege of being named that. So when we're talking about a Renaissance, especially in this area, there's a couple things that it has to accomplish. For one thing, especially in this day and age, you have to be able to speak truth to power. The reason art is always seems to be one of the first things that is taken away in what can be considered oppressive regimes or in corrupt governments is because art imitates life, imitates art. Art in any medium says the truth that we may not always be able to say with our words, that we may not always be able to express or communicate in our everyday living, right? So what happens is it also exposes truth that we all collectively see. Art is something that holds a community together. Because when I see that you made this painting about name any social issue that I also identify with, and now we have community. Now we're on common ground. And any oppressive power structure does not want the people that it oppresses on common ground. So it always sows division. So a renaissance must be able to speak truth to power. Secondly, a renaissance has to be supported financially. The original renaissance was supported by merchants. And even outside of arts, you want to think about like the civil rights movement. It was supported by the Black power base, which was Black families. You had Black owned businesses. You had nonprofit organizations that were supporting people like Dr. King and Medgar Evers and all these people that became the faces and really the driving engines behind the civil rights movement, right? And even with the civil rights movement, the point was equality for all Americans, right? That was the goal. It was, I have a dream, right? That was the driving force behind that cultural movement. Last thing, a renaissance must also provide spaces for growth, right? It can't just be the driving forces in the front now. You have to have places for people to learn and to grow in whatever craft you're using to be your medium, your engine, right? Whatever you're trying to accomplish, you need people to take on that. Because the truth is, all of us in this chat, no matter how hard we work, we're not going to be able to do this forever. We're going to have to pass the torch on to somebody else. We're going to have to give over whatever we have to the next person, because the world we're creating today will be felt by the people that come after us tomorrow. So we have to be able to pass on what we have to someone else. So to come back to the original question, are we in a renaissance? Not yet. I say not yet because a lot of the spaces for growth are still being built. I would say on the scale of 0 to hurricane, we're like tropical depression, tropical storm. We haven't earned a name yet, right? We're just getting to the place where the winds are swirling. We're just getting to the place where the skies are just starting to get dark and the air smells like rain. You know, we're just getting to that place to where now we're starting to move into, wait, something's happening. This isn't just a regular storm out at sea. This isn't just a cultural moment that comes and goes. No, this is something. For example, we all remember Hurricane Katrina, right? We all remember, what was it, Hurricane Irma that came through pretty much the same way. We all remember like major hurricanes that earned names, and those names became infamous because of the damage they did. On the flip side, right, we remember cultural movements because of the impact they made. We remember where we were when name any major cultural pop culture moment happened, right? For example, we remember where we were. A lot of us remember where we were when we found out Michael Jackson had passed away, right? That was a major cultural moment. We remember where we were when the cultural moment happens. There's no distinct moment where the storm becomes the hurricane. It just does. And next thing you know, you're measuring the winds, and it's like, oh, they're moving kind of fast over there. Oh, there's something going on over there. Oh, wait, no, this isn't just a gathering. They've been doing this. They've been stirring the pot for a long time. I say that to say that a renaissance has to be pushed and stirred by more than just one person or one group of people. It has to be a collective effort, right? So my argument is that all the ingredients are there. The air pressure is right. You know, we got the warm waters. We got a culture that's hungry for something different. And the air smells like rain. It's getting dark. And the wind is starting to blow. I don't know when it'll happen, but I think we'll all remember where we are when it happens. I close with this. When it comes to a renaissance, it's not exactly about the moment or oh, look, we're in the middle of the renaissance, whatever. I bring it back to, what are we trying to accomplish? You know, what are we trying to see happen? It's not enough for art just for art's sake. Art for art's sake has never saved anybody's life. It has never fed anybody. Art for art's sake has never given anybody shelter except for the artist. You know, especially in the time that we're dealing with now, art has to be something that addresses the problems that people see every day. Groceries are more expensive than they've ever been, ever. All right. Gas prices are out the wazoo. All right. It's harder now to find decent housing anywhere. And people my age, we work 2 and 3 jobs, got a degree, published a book, done all the things, and still can't afford, rent at our apartment. We got to have 2 and 3 roommates just to live somewhere. So how are we addressing the problems that people see in the current culture? When we think about people like Shakespeare and like the major poets and writers of the past, in any context, they were addressing current issues that needed words, that needed verbiage, that needed to be illustrated because it's proof of a shared human experience. But also, they were addressing things that had not been addressed yet, and we're giving people a chance to think about what does the solution look like? How do I walk through this in my day-to-day life? In that same note, everything from subject matter to how the movement moves, for lack of a better term, uh, from everything from subject matter to how the movement moves, how the hurricane spins, it's all got to be intentional. It's all got to be something that it can't just be just a random hodgepodge of like color and art and things like that. Like I said before, art, if we say it all the time, no matter what medium of art you're in, if everybody likes your art, you may be doing it wrong. If everybody's cool with what you created, you may be doing it wrong. In the same way, hurricanes don't ask for permission to spin. All right. They are natural causes. Mother Nature does not knock on your door and let you know that Katrina's coming. All right. It just happens and it's in the middle of the ocean. You got a week to evacuate or hunker down because it's about to blow. So when it comes to, and I'll close with actually this. And listen, I'll be like a Baptist pastor sometimes. I got 3 and 4 closings. But one last thing I want to leave y'all with is that the final thought, if there was a fourth thing you needed for a renaissance, it's grit. It's grit. Um, you have to have a mindset of, I want to see this happen and I'm not going to stop until it happens. A lot of times when you do art for art's sake, the minute the art becomes inconvenient, you stop. The creativity stops flowing. You stop making space to try. You stop making space for others to try. Um, a lot of what we're seeing especially in this area, is we have to create the infrastructure, right? A lot of the infrastructure just doesn't exist. I tell people all the time with Slam Connection that for some people, they had to if they wanted to build the car, they had to go to the junkyard. They go to the junkyard, they get the engine, they get the door, and they can kind of piece and patch a car together, and it might start. For us, we had to go and build a mine and go into the earth and get the iron ore and then build a foundry and build a factory to build the car, then go back in and get more metal to mold all the pieces. And then we had to pave a road because there's no road, right? You have to have a level of grit that makes you say, like, no, I'm not going to stop until I see this happen. I'm not going to stop until I have that goal, that thing, that purpose for the movement. I'm not going to stop until I see this happen or until I can pass it off to some capable hands that will see it happen, because it may not happen in my lifetime. It may not happen during the time that I'm doing this art thing. But yeah, 4 things that a Renaissance needs. It needs a collective push, right? It needs financial support. It needs places for people to grow, and it needs some grit, some good old fashioned elbow grease. Do that, and you might have a hurricane. So there you go.
To follow that, right? Thank you for sharing with all of that with us. And I guess as part of what I came along at the end of the Slate seminar to share some of the poetry that I've written, it kind of ties in with some of the information that has been presented. Um, history creates its own space for people to create and to share poetry, pictures, sculpture, all kinds of things, which is a part of all of that art. And I think for Williamsburg in particular, there have been multiple things that have been, as he was saying, stirring the pot. In the last few years, that has made history come in the forefront. As a member of First Baptist Church, we have found lots of additional history about our church, about the people who were attending the church. Um, Recently, they did the installation of the hearth on William and Mary's campus in memory of those who were enslaved, and they have found out more and more information about them. So they were included on that monument. We've got the Bray School, so there's history that's there. Again, connected with my church, but then also with Colonial Williamsburg. There were the 62 souls that were found under the parking lot that they uncovered their bones. So there's been a lot of historical things that have been kind of stirring the pot for some great opportunity for art. And one of those opportunities, I think, has come through me through poetry. So what happens is something gets said, something gets read, it feeds around in my head and it spins around until something comes out. So as I have been hearing all of these different spaces of history and the culture and the culture of the past, the culture of the now, and how does the now affect the future, and how has the past impacted the now, um, poetry has come out of that. And so I'm just going to finish what I do with reading some of my poems. And they are some newer ones. And one in particular, I'll give it a little story as we go into it. But to kind of capitalize on what I had just said, as more recent one I wrote, it's two haikus kind of linked together. History of the future. We are living the history of the future at this present time. Make it a future born from an intentional, exceptional now. Because now is the history for tomorrow. And what will we make that look like? We have that opportunity in this moment to make that future look great, right? One I would like to read is called My Musings of a Grown-Up Bray School Scholar. Um, I had the great opportunity to listen to Dr. Lee do her presentation for C-SPAN. And it was wonderful, and it just stuck with me. And after hearing her, I went home and the ruminating happened, and wrote a poem. So this was written upon the occasion of hearing the presentation entitled The Williamsburg Bray School and Its Scholars, 1760 to 1774. It was given on April 21st, 2025. The poem reflects the author's thoughts and questions spoken as a potential musings of a grown-up Bray School scholar. How I was viewed, I came to learn, was based on who was looking and why. The varied perspectives of how I was seen changed with the mind that was behind the eye. Pupil, child, chattel, experiment, so some tended to think. Investment, resilience, a soul and an ancestor with both a divine and a genetic link. As a pupil, I was expected to learn, then to share what I knew. But I was not expected to use my knowledge to elevate my station or to expand my reasoning as I grew. I was to study my letters so that I could learn to read the prayers, so that my soul could be saved and I could gain freedom once I climbed the heavenly stairs. Now I was told I would stay enslaved. My freedom wouldn't be on this side. Hence, I wasn't to get no ideas about breaking free, because they'd surely have my hide. For you see, I was also considered to be chattel. Isn't that strange? To be a possession with a soul worth saving that was in a body not worth freeing. Liberation wasn't the goal. Which made me wonder if teaching us about the Lord was really fulfilling a Christian obligation. Or was it to indoctrinate and foster dependency and gratitude, thus intensifying the process of subjugation? You know, I was also puzzled and would like to ask, why didn't the spiritual messages apply to you too? Because you definitely did unto me what I know you would not have allowed to be done unto you. That's not to say the religious teaching didn't help in some valuable ways. It helped give me strength to make it through. It also helped me keep calm, reminding me God repays. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some kind and compassionate people involved who didn't see me as a school experiment or just a return on investment issue to be resolved. However, regardless of whether I was seen as a person or not, I rejected the contrived idea that my natural ordained condition was that of a slave. I have always been a person with core deep resiliency who will have a legacy that will live long after I'm buried in my grave. I don't know them, but I know in the future there will be descendants connected to me who will proudly embrace me for who I am, even celebrating that I'm a part of their rich and layered ancestry. So, as far as the return of investment goes, by your criteria, I don't think it worked out so well for you. But by my standard of having my story live on, it will be a future generation's powerful blessing that will continue and continue and continue. And then in reference to the buried bones, I wrote one entitled Buried Are My Bones, which was written upon the occasion of and given also on that day, the revealing of the burial markers that they established to mark the graves of the 62 souls. Buried are my bones. I walked Nassau Street. I worked and worshiped in that place. You don't know me and you never will, but I'm glad to be recognized in a dedicated and sacred space. Buried are my bones, as well the details of my story, but my presence will now be acknowledged, even though my name is known only to God, the one who gets the glory. For a while, my existence was paved over with concrete. I was silenced in life and quite disrespected in death. But the good word says everything will come to light. Now my life will be forever marked, signifying my time on earth and my breath. It will remain a mystery what I knew, who my friends were, what a day was like for me, how I played, what caused me pain, what made me laugh, what I prayed would be my destiny. A destiny, I tell you, that I could have never imagined would include me being discussed in an important and historical way, let alone that my resting place would be known to people around the world. Don't my God make a way? Buried are my bones, as well the details of my story. But my presence will now be acknowledged, even though my name is known only to God, the one who gets the glory. And the one with the hearth, I'll do that one and I'll close with I'll carry you with me. The installation of the hearth, I don't know how many of you are familiar with it or aware of it, but it was an installation that is memorializing the people who were enslaved and helped to build and have William and Mary functioning in those early years. And they wanted something that could give memory to them, to give honor to them for the work unspoken of that they did for so long. And so I wrote this when I heard about the fact that the hearth was existing and its unveiling. It's entitled No More. I can just hear those who were once enslaved saying, "We are enslaved no more because our finite existence shifted to an infinite reality. We are invisible no more because our plight has been revealed. We are dehumanized no more because now our space in the human race has been acknowledged. We are forgotten no more because now there is a permanent reminder cementing our legacy. We are devalued no more because our contribution to the foundation on which this place stands is now commemorated. We are silenced no more because now you hear our story and we teach lessons of internal sovereignty despite external servitude. But I can also hear we as a people today saying, we are fooled no more because history has proven a monument, a holiday, won't necessarily soften hard hearts or break through bricked-in minds. And we are shocked no more because we know some are still trying to enslave history, brutally stripping and disfiguring it for profit and to make it conform to their sanitized and segregated memories. But we are hopeful forevermore that with each story uncovered, locked in lies will be liberated, racist reasoning will be unraveled, respect will rise up, equity will be elevated, love will win, and freedom will be free to all, so that we will enslave no more. And then because history and family and all that happens in our past has an imprint on us, there's a poem I wrote entitled Carry You With Me. And if we stop and we look at our lives, we carry the people who are connected with us every day. I carry you with me. I carry your wit in my words, your strength in my back, your pain in my grasp, your wisdom in my action, your humor in my laughter, your story in my mouth. I carry you with me every day. I carry your legacy in my loins, your love in my being, your sassiness in my eyes, your grace on my smile, your passion in my voice, your determination on my shoulders. I carry you with me every day. I carry your power in my walk, your lessons in my plans, your resilience in my core, your creativity in my fingers, your kindness in my deeds, your prayer in my heart. I carry you with me every day. I carry your vision in my perspective, your inquisitiveness in my mind, your courage in my bones, your beauty in my soul, your hope in my feet, your freedom in my song. I carry you with me every day. Thank you. And so with that, I turn it back to you, Elizabeth.
Okay. Actually, I'm going to ask Maureen if you wanted to have if you had any wrap up before we open it to the group.
Nothing again but incredible thanks
Yes.
to our fellow guests. And I do want to make sure that people know how to find our guests. So if you guys want to put in the chat or just for the sake of the recording, how can people find your work, find you? Um, yeah, because I think that would be a missed opportunity if we didn't ask our fellow guests to kind of just briefly share that before we go into some discussion.
I'll go first. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, um, all the places at Atlas Nixon, or on Facebook, I'm just Lacroy Nixon. That's Lacroy. Also, my nonprofit Slam Connection nonprofit uses slam spoken word poetry as a means for community action. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok as Slam Connection, just all one word. You can find me and really a lot of other poets and creatives on those channels as well. And yeah, if you want to email me, you can email me at lacroy45@gmail.com. I'm always here to connect. So there's that.
And I'm in several little places. So I have Facebook, I have Instagram, I also have a website. It's juanitagraham.com. It's easy to remember. Um, you can email me, juanitasporetry@gmail.com. I'm also on First Baptist's YouTube channel from preaching. So I've got a lot of little pockets where I am. So reach out. I'd love to hear from you. And my book is available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble online.
Okay. And I've already put the link for our blog, for the lab's blog, which has Juanita's beautiful poem in response to the C-SPAN lecture that Maureen gave. And I'm going to put the link in for that lecture as well, if you're interested in kind of a deeper dive into those topics that Juanita brought out of Maureen's lecture. So lots of good news. Good things being shared. So I open up to the group. What are your thoughts, reflections, things you want to add? We've had some really good comments about the Renaissance itself is the word is going through a renaissance. And then Todd mentioned a group called Voices for Historical Justice that's going on in town. Who else would like to share? We welcome thoughts and reflections.
I'll share a little bit about our group if you don't mind.
Sure.
Back in thinking about July or August, for the last few years, I've been building a big network with other historians. And back in July or August, just seeing everything happening right now with attempts to being made to remove narratives of underrepresented groups, like from the Smithsonian, National Park Service, and all that. I reached out to all my historian friends and pitched the idea of forming a group, and a number of us have. So the name of the group is Voices for Historical Justice. We've got a number of different historians in it, including Joseph McGill, author of The Slave Dwelling Project, Michael Twitty, whom I know a lot of you all know because of his work he's done there at Colonial Williamsburg. We have Nicole Moore. She's the education director with the National Center for Civil and Human Rights in Atlanta, Georgia, and she's also the president of the National Council on Public History. And we have a whole host of other historians who have joined with our group. So check us out. And if you want to join, send a request, and I will definitely put you through to us.
Perfect. Thank you, Chad. Thanks for being here this evening.
Thank you.
We have a wonderful collection of people here this evening. Don't be shy, people. And, what are your thoughts on historical cultural renaissance? Not yet, in the works, brewing, and how are you going to be a part of it?
Okay, so nobody's talking, and you know that I am not shy. So here's in a nutshell. In my 64 years on this planet and about 50 of them in Williamsburg. I never heard a story concerning anybody who looked like me for 50 years. And if we did hear a story, it was always about the enslavement of them and nothing else. It was only recently, I think somewhere around 2019, and with the impetus being people of more along the lines of the age of Lacroy than myself, that I personally decided I needed a renaissance. I needed rebirth, and I needed to be enlightened, and I needed to share that. In Williamsburg today, there are many, many stories being told, and there is an avalanche, almost a tsunami of people who don't come to any of these meetings, who um, don't necessarily show up when we're doing things, but who call me up and say, hey, can you, will you, should you, can we share? How can we share? Here are items, I'm giving them to you. How can we tell our own stories? When will we tell our own stories? How can we make money off of our stories? What can we do? Just as recently as this morning, somewhere around 4 o'clock, because I'm AM. I'm at that age where I'm not asleep. And people were inboxing me and saying, hey, look, I think we need to start a museum somewhere in town where people can come and share and give items. And I'm like, yeah, because I can't hold your items. They're priceless and I can't do the insurance by myself. But long story short, what I am saying is there is an enlightenment that didn't seem to be there before. Let me change the verbiage that was not there before. And people are hungry for it. They don't all make a great deal of noise. And I think they're all looking for spokespersons. Oftentimes, I volunteer to be it. A lot of times, I try to sit back and be quiet. But as you can tell tonight, that doesn't work very often. So I'm expecting you all to talk right now.
Thanks, Janet. Yep, go for it.
I was gonna say I see the comment that said we may also be in the eye of the hurricane, experiencing a renaissance, but not yet able to realize the full scope of it. That could also be a thing. One thing I also said at the Slate seminar was that Williamsburg is like America has like cultural pressure points, and Williamsburg is kind of like one of those pressure points. It's a little dot on the map in the middle of a random peninsula that most people don't know is here, and yet stuff that happens here reverberates through the entire region and ultimately up and down the eastern seaboard. So it's also a possibility. That's one of the reasons why I believe it's imperative that it happens here, because this place becomes a case study. If it can happen in little old Williamsburg, Virginia, it can happen anywhere. And now we're changing the culture. Now we're changing the question, right? Um and then also one thing, I'm glad you brought up like a place like your own museum and things like that. One thing I've always kind of pushed for, right now it seems like a crazy idea, but mark my words. One thing I've really pushed for is having an official contemporary art center in Williamsburg. There are no true places for artists of any medium, especially performing artists, to gather and not only showcase their craft, but practice it. One of the things that we need in this day and age is consistent, accessible spaces for people to do what they do and to show why it matters. And it needs to have a rallying point, almost like a backbone. If you notice, like in any culture, like the open mic spot where the open mic happens, whatever that is, that typically becomes the table that everybody comes to. That's the backbone of the entire community. The same way the dinner table is like the backbone of a family. We need consistent spaces or a consistent space to hold these kind of things to happen that is accessible to anybody in the community. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Like you could be my son, but you're fire. You are absolutely fire. You inspire me even to do more, to do more. You're a total inspiration. And we are looking at places. Dr. Moody's house is sitting empty on Route 199. And he was a whole cultural movement in himself. And I've been in contact with his daughters, and I'm like, tell me we can do something with that space, because it's needed, it's necessary, and it could ignite an even bigger fire than one that is growing. And you are fire, young man. You and Tyler like completely inspire me. And you give me hope for the, and Elizabeth's laughing because she knows it's true. Um, you give me hope. For a
Yeah.
long time, for a long, long time, I've had people say, why are you interested in the history of Williamsburg? I'm like, America started here, and we inspire change. I don't know how many of you witnessed the Bray School opening last November. Was it last November, October, whatever? But for the first time in my life, I heard the chair of the board of trustees, talk about the fact that not only were the quote unquote Negroes mistreated and enslaved in the whole nine in the 18th century, but she recognized the 20th century displacement and disregard for who we were as well. And it was done on a public stage, and it was recorded. And it was the one point where I had turned my phone off. So I don't personally have it, but she did it again at the gala using different words, the gala for Let Freedom Ring, using different words. And that matters. It matters. I've had somebody give me a Civil War quilt. I've had somebody give me deeds from Magruder. Yeah, Magruder. When it was called Magruder, people are giving me items, and I have no place to put them, which is why we need something. And Lacroy, I'm waiting for you and Tyler to, find me a place and let's get it moving.
Hello. I want to say too that it sounds like the Renaissance that we're experiencing is a spiritual Renaissance as well, because the passion, the words that we're using, are actually really defining that new definition for Renaissance. Maybe for this area, maybe just for us here in Williamsburg, but it's a message to everyone because the narrative and the stories are now changing. It's a rebirth, it's a reawakening. It is a new story for this day that's going to carry on for the next generation. I don't want to say it's necessarily a tornado, but maybe it's the quiet before the storm. We're not recognizing it just yet because we're doing it as individuals and we're having the same thoughts and feelings about this renaissance or this personal renaissance. And spiritually, when we come together like this, not religiously, but spiritually, we are combining those thoughts, those ideas, that creativity in order to have that new definition of the Renaissance. And I think it's happening. I think it's now, but maybe it's not defined as it once was. Just my thought.
Thanks, Stephanie. Folks, I'm looking at the time and I want to be mindful of everyone's time, but if there are other reflections, anyone want to share anything more before we conclude this evening's session?
Elizabeth, I would just like to drop this little seed, I guess. I'm just really interested and excited to think about where we will be a year from now. And if this kind of conversation becomes kind of the signature of December, what is our conversation going to be a year from now? I'm excited to think about what that will be. Lacroy?
I was gonna say, any of you guys, I put my contact info in the chat. Feel free to hit me up. I think the beautiful thing about being the first laureate is that it's a blessing and a curse because I'm both under a microscope and also the field is wide, right? The city has never done anything like this. So any ideas, anything that you really feel could move not just the art scene, but the culture of the greater Williamsburg area, any ideas that you have, I have a great relationship with the Arts Council and City Council. Now may be the time to strike the iron while it's hot. So if you have any ideas, please hit me up. Please let me know.
Terrific. Yes, everybody, let's send all of our ideas right to Lacroy after this. So thank you. Well, folks, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. I want to thank everyone who joined us this evening. This has been a great group. This has been a wonderful group, and we're excited to have you now part of this journey. I was thinking about, where we were a year ago and kind of looking back on 2025 and just kind of that year in reflection kind of piece. We've had 10 Bray School Stories sessions this year, and I was counting up the numbers. We've had over 270 people participating in our sessions, and our recordings on YouTube have been viewed by over 700 times. This is resonating in some way, shape, or form with people, and I'm so appreciative of your participation, your steadfast, just kind of interest and commitment in being here and being part of this conversation. So we're excited to be back next year with some new sessions. I also wanted to make sure, and some of you already know this, Maureen and I now make up the Bray School Lab. We lost our dear friends, Tanya and Nicole, so we have gone from a 4-person staff to a 2-person staff. We've also moved out of the Colonial Williamsburg area into SWEM Library. That's where our offices are now. And if you've been following the lab on Facebook and have subscribed to the Bray School Bulletin's newsletter, you may have noticed a few changes. The Office of Strategic Cultural Partnerships has rebranded the Facebook page to reflect its broader mission and its current partners. And now we are under university libraries. And we're excited about that because it offers a lot of opportunities. But we don't quite have our own Facebook page just yet. We're going to be working on that. And as for Bray School Bulletins, we're working with our library colleagues on their new platform for our newsletter. So we're excited to share it with you in the coming months. But in the meantime, our website and contact information for the Bray School Lab do remain the same. Our website address is wm.edu/Bray Lab. Just want to make sure that everybody is aware of kind of what's happening there. So please feel free to reach out if you have any questions or concerns. And thank you. Thank you to Maureen, to Lacroy, to Juanita. Thank you all very much for being here and being willing to kind of to do this panel session again. I think this has just been marvelous. And to everybody here joining us this evening, thank you again for being a part of this. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season. And for those of you in the path of the snow this evening, please stay safe and warm. And I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you again so much for being here. And everybody take care.
Bye-bye.